But in studio, our very own, man, we've got an amazing staff that Brian, Colt, and Ashley have built up on Sic'Em 365 under the umbrella. Levi Caraway covers Baylor baseball, and obviously on the story yesterday, the no longer the head coach and Steve Rodriguez. Levi, thanks, man. Did that story surprise you?
It really didn't. I mean, coming into the 2022 season, we knew Rod was going to be on the hot seat and kind of a prove-it year. And then kind of as the season progressed, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. You know, especially after Tyler Thomas and Will Rigney went down kind of towards the end of the year, you knew it was going to end poorly. So,
how much of this is just performance-based based on this year or overall buzz based on the last few years?
So I think when Rod got hired in 2016, that first year was kind of a rebuild. And then 2017, 2018, 2019, he gets to a regional every single year. Doesn't ever make to a super regional with really talented teams. You got All-Americans and Shea Langoliers, David Wenzel, Cody Bradford. Still can't really get over that hump. And you're like, okay, maybe in 2020 things can start to kind of change. And then COVID cancels it. They just came off. I wrote this in the article. They just came off over 3 wins against SEC schools in the Shriners Classic in Houston, which was like huge. So everybody's like, okay, maybe this is the year. And then boom, it's gone. And then that kind of derailed things. In 2021, you know, COVID kind of towards the end of the year, 65th team out of 64, doesn't make the tournament. And then this year, you know, they were kind of hoping to get back, but they just never could regain that momentum. And when you lose the momentum in a baseball program, very difficult to refine that.
As they wound down there towards the Big 12 tournament, did you kind of just – what was the feeling kind of around the team at that point? Did it all feel like the writing was sort of on the wall at that stage?
It did. A few weeks kind of leading up to it, you kind of had an idea. And then that Oklahoma State series, they pulled off that crazy Friday night, or at the time I think it was Thursday, but the 11-3 comeback win. You're like, wow, that was best victory of the year, but in the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything. It was kind of nice to see the guys just have like a good, feel-good win, but then Saturday, Saturday, they ended up losing. And then going into the tournament, then they were leading TCU 2-0, going into the bottom of the 6th, I believe, and 2 errors, game tied, bullpen blows the game in the 7th, then it was over. And then at that point, you just saw the air kind of deflate out of the whole team because they were competing with TCU up until the very end. And then the Oklahoma State game was, you know, just from the first pitch, there wasn't much juice on the field, no energy or anything.
I mentioned this word, and it may be a little harsh about apathy within the baseball program, and that's not directed at anybody. Of course, the head coach is the one whose name is brought up no matter what sport. Did you see anything at all where, like the crowd, the size, the energy, was it just there? Was there any moment you thought there was a spark?
No, quite frankly. So, I mean, this year was the anniversary of the 2012 team, and you kind of see – we had a game where they came out, and you saw those moments back then where Baylor Ballpark was filled. And I showed y'all earlier, and I'm doing an article in June about the attendance every single year, not including 2021 because of, you know, attendance things. But since 2012, every single year attendance has gone down. And even when Steve Smith was fired and Rod replaced him, the attendance was kind of about the same. And then after that, it just went down and went down and went down. And so I think – as a student, you see what Nikki Collin does. You see what Scott Drew does within the student body of just going out there. And people kind of take that for granted. Like when active students see, oh, these people want me to go to their games, they're going to give pizza, they're going to give giveaways. Like that does a big deal. And people don't really, I think, appreciate that aspect of it. And, you know, people don't really even know baseball exists because like y'all were saying, like you don't even feel that it was baseball. And so this year, there's probably in midweek games, probably 200 to 400 people there, 100 of those being family members. And then on weekends, it was pretty bad too. I mean, I think the Texas Tech and Oklahoma State series had some pretty good showouts, but half of the fans there were the opposing teams. So that goes to show you that just nobody was.
So if you had to put a guess on how many students show up at a game right now? On
a midweek game, probably 15 to 25. On a weekend, probably 50 to 100.
Yeah, that's not going to work. No. That's not going to work.
No, and baseball can be a collegiate-type fan, like a student-type sport. And if Scott Drew has got the national title and he's out, What was the mood inside the program among the players? There's been a few things said about this and that he lost the team. And again, I asked Steve to come on. He said he'd rather not good timing. I'm not going to guess at that. You were there every day. Was this something that were some players that were hurt by this? Was there any kind of he leaves or we leave type of thought in your opinion?
I think if you look at the roster right now, there's about 40 to 45 people on it, but 20 to 25 of those guys don't play. And so in any circumstance, when you have a rough season in football and basketball and baseball across the board, if you have a bad year and you don't play, you're going to leave, especially now with the transfer portal and whatnot. People are going to take advantage of that. And I saw today that Arizona State's been arguably one of the best baseball programs in the country the past couple decades, and they had 8 people enter today after a sub-500 year. And so that just goes to show that, like, there's always going to be people now that are going to want to reach out, going to leave to find more playing time elsewhere. And so I think in our case it was a little overblown. Baylor's roster is kind of in a weird position where you have quite a few guys that are going to be weighing MLB options. You have quite a few seniors, and the rest are pretty young people that don't get much playing time that could potentially transfer. And so it was kind of overblown to say that there was like a mutiny among players, because that wasn't the case. But I would not be surprised to see, like mentioned, 15 to 20 people transfer out.
Arizona State's got the history, the lineage, Bob Horner, Rick Monday, Reggie Jackson. Is that right? No, was he a Southern Cal? Where did Bonds play? Southern Cal?
No, he was at
Arizona State. I mean, it's got a history in baseball without question at Arizona State. That says something, because you can lose it that quickly, even with – and they've had a struggle throughout their athletic department quite a bit. So, what's next?
Well, you know how Mac Rhodes is. He keeps it very secretive, very under wraps as he begins his coaching search. I know a lot of people in the Waco area want to go with Mitch Thompson from MCC, but, you know, I don't really see Mac going that direction, and I don't see him going Hefner from DBU either. So, you know, he's definitely going to go with somebody under the radar, somebody we're not expecting, somebody that I have kind of been interested in for the Louisiana people, but Jake, I think Gautreau. I'm not good with the Cajun stuff, but he was at Tulane. He's Mississippi State's assistant coach. They won the national championship last year. He just turned down a job to go back to his alma mater at Tulane. So that's kind of interesting, and that was very recently. And so I'm sure he's one of the people that we're going to be reaching out to. The UTSA coach as well. He's a good candidate.
Baylor's open, Clemson's open, and Kansas is open. Mm-hmm. So I would think that, I mean, and that's just 3 off the top of my head, that if you're Jay Gautreau, you would be like, I'm going to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know about Kansas, but Clemson,
but it's still a Power 5 job. Yeah,
Clemson and Baylor are definitely the top 2 open jobs, and people are definitely going to want those jobs. They kind of like the private school Baylor thing, but no, people will want this job.
Levi, I do want to clarify one thing, and I did my own due diligence on this, is that there were thoughts that perhaps all of a sudden late in the year there was a hall monitor that started watching baseball. That's not correct, no, right? In fact, Chad Jackson's been a part of that job as the protocol assistant AD. Every sport has a liaison, so to speak. So there was nothing like different in the end or near the end where there was extra people monitoring what was going on.
Not to my knowledge. Chad Jackson was there on a regular basis, so not that anything I know.
What did players on the team, either whether they're coming back, leaving, have a chance to get drafted or what have they said to you about yesterday?
So I think most people, first off, the reports were they all were like, okay, that's a little overblown. It's not that bad. It wasn't bad at all. But it was time. It was time. It had taken its course.
All right, good luck with that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, great job covering it. No, it's not always fun when the season's not that fun, but, you know, patient enough and there'll be a good season around the corner.
Hopefully.
See what happens with that. Thanks, buddy. Good to have you on. Levi, just one of the many talented young men that we have and women on this staff at Sic'Em365.com and Sic'Em365 Radio as well. Coming up.